What would you do if two strangers showed up at your door in the middle of a storm, drenched, shaking, begging for help? And you were broke, exhausted, one bill away from the lights going out. Would you let them in or pretend you never heard the bell? That was the question on my porch the night the wind screamed down my street and the rain hit the windows like handfuls of gravel. I was at the kitchen table staring at an electricity bill with final notice stamped across it, like a bruise, the bulb above me humming. The heater coughing, the whole house making the kind of tired sounds a home makes when the money runs thin. The microwave clock said 9:47, which is not a good hour for surprises where I live. Then the doorbell cut through everything clean and sharp, and for a second I just sat there with my hand on the table because sometimes stillness feels like protection. You know what I mean? I walked slow like I could stretch the seconds into a plan, put my eye to the peephole, and saw two figures huddled under the porch light, hair braided and soaked to the scalp, shoulders curled inward, like they were trying to take up less space than fear allows. I cracked the door with the chain still on because habits keep you alive in neighborhoods like mine, and I asked, "Can I help you?" The taller one looked up, and her eyes. I'm telling you, it was like being looked at by a truth I didn't want, but couldn't ignore. "Please, sir, our car broke down about a mile away. We've been walking in the rain, we just need to use your phone." Logic has a loud voice in my life. It said scam, setup. Don't be stupid, Jamal. But I also saw how they leaned into each other the way my kids lean into me when the thunder's too close, and there's this old motor in my chest that starts even when I'm out of gas. "Hang on," I said, slid the chain back, opened the door, and let the storm in with them. "Come in, get warm." "Thank you," they breathed like oxygen had a sound. Their names were Amina and Samira, twins, early 20s. The kind of beautiful the world usually protects, the kind of confident people usually pay for. And yet here they were, dripping all over my second-hand rug. I grabbed 2 towels, the good ones, meaning the least frayed, handed them over. Tried to make my living room look less like a man starting over. "The phone's in the kitchen," I said. "She's moody, but try her." Amina dialed, waited, listened to nothing, dialed again. The storm had punched out the lines. "We can go," Samira said, voice steady but pride tucked under every word. "We don't want to be a problem." "You're not going anywhere in this," I told them. "Not tonight. I've got a pull-out couch. It's not a 5-star, but it's dry, and breakfast will be cereal and toast if the toaster doesn't take it personally." That pulled a real smile from both of them, the kind that lands in the room like light. We set up the couch together, the sun-faded striped sheets, the blanket that remembers a different bed in a different life. I made tea with my last 2 good bags, because generosity isn't measured by what you have. It's measured by what you share when you barely have it. We sat with the storm pressing its palm to the windows, and they asked the kind of questions people ask when they care, and also when they're trying to figure out if you're safe. "What do you do, Jamal? What did you used to do? Do you have kids?" And I heard myself tell the story I don't tell at parties. "I used to be an architect," I said, "had my own firm, wore suits that made me walk taller, chased the next contract like it held my worth. Then the partnership blew up, and the divorce took the house and half the furniture to feed lawyers. My ex moved cross-country for a fresh start, and now I do drafting work when I can get it. And my kids, Malik and Amara, are across time zones I count with my chest instead of a clock. I tell bedtime stories over a bad connection and hear about lost teeth 3 days late, and sometimes I sit at this table until midnight, making drawings for a client who still pays me net, never. They didn't flinch. They didn't offer the kind of pity that tastes like chalk. Amina just asked softly, "What are their names?" And I said them again because names are a kind of prayer, and something eased in me like a knot giving up. We talked about little things that carry big meaning, The way a child's backpack smells like crayons and apples. The way a soccer game sounds through a phone speaker. And for a minute, the house felt occupied by more than worry. Pattern interrupt. Wait. There's something you should know. There was a detail I clocked and set aside. Their clothes. Not just expensive, curated. The dresses had weight, the boots had a confident quiet. Even the way they moved through the room said, "We've been in beautiful spaces, and we belong there." What were girls like that doing on my block at 10 at night? I didn't ask. Dignity is also a kind of welcome. We slept in pieces. I checked the locks twice because caution is a religion. I still practiced, then lay in bed and listened to the storm fall from a scream to a hum, and I swear I could hear them breathing in the next room, and that sound softened the edges of my loneliness. Morning broke, clean sky, scrubbed air, cold as a new start, and I found them at the table with mismatched mugs, whispering until they saw me, then smiles, then thank you again. We ate toast and the last of the juice, and then I drove them to their car in my beat-up sedan that makes one extra noise per mile. Their vehicle. Yeah, it didn't belong on our block. Glossy sleek, the kind of machine that gets wiped down with sadness when it rains. Hood up, quick look, alternator belt snapped, an easy fix for a shop, not a roadside miracle. Roadside assistance came, tow truck driver greeted me by name because people know you for the wrong reasons when you live where I live. And as they were climbing up, Amina pressed a card into my hand. "If you ever need anything," she said, "anything at all, call this number." I nodded, pocketed it like you do with a lottery ticket. You don't expect to cash, and waved as they turned the corner. When kindness leaves, quiet gets heavy. I stood in the doorway longer than made sense, listening to my house breathe, the way a tired person breathes. Then I went back to the table, the bill still there, the pencil still useless, opened the laptop and got back to work, because effort is the only prayer I know how to repeat every day. 2 weeks passed in slices, a small renovation job for a local store, enough money to keep one utility honest, late nights drafting, early mornings measuring hope in cups of coffee that tasted like resolve. The card ended up on my dresser, the ink a little blurred from the wash, and I would look at it sometimes, then look away because pride is stubborn, and asking for help felt like stepping into a room where the lights were too bright. And then the bell rang again. Tuesday, 10:30 a.m. I opened the door and saw a man in a suit, tailored like a promise, flanked by Amina and Samira, faces lit up with that special kind of relief when a plan comes together. "Mr. Brown," he said, extending his hand, "my name is Chief Adewale Okoro. I believe you met my daughters." The world shifted, a few degrees clicked into a new alignment. Okoro. The card. The clothes, the posture. It was all part of a picture I didn't know I was looking at. "You're their father," I said, and he nodded a quiet smile like he wasn't just acknowledging facts, he was acknowledging fate. "I understand I owe you a debt of gratitude," he said, "more than I can repay." Amina stepped forward, eyes bright. "We told him everything, Jamal, how you were the only person who opened the door, how you offered us towels and tea, and your story when you had no reason to trust us." Samira added, "We asked him to wait before coming. We needed to be sure. Be sure of what I asked, and here comes the twist. Wait for it." 17 houses, Chief Okoro said, looking me in the eye like he wanted to weigh truth between us. "They knocked on 17 doors before yours. 17 people peeked through a peephole and decided not to get involved. And before you judge, remember fear is persuasive, and everyone has a story for their no. But you said yes. If it were you, what would you have done?" I didn't know what to do with my hands. I felt exposed, like someone had read a diary I didn't write down. He must have seen that because he softened his voice and shifted from judgment to invitation. My daughters are good judges of character, Mr. Brown. They asked me to do what I do. Research. We looked at what we could find about your work, your custody situation, your portfolio. It wasn't to invade your life, it was to confirm who you are when no one is grading you. Do you think that's fair, to look into a man's life before you help him? I know some of you have thoughts. Hold them for the end. Bring the heat, I can take it. Then he said the thing that changed everything. What I'm about to offer isn't charity, it's good business, and it's my values in motion. Okoro Development is expanding. We need architects who know buildings are more than concrete and steel. They're promises to a community. I'd like to offer you a position as senior project architect. Salary that puts your feet back under you, relocation support to get you close to your children. Legal assistance if you choose to pursue joint custody. One condition: Thanksgiving at our house because my daughters insist, and because we do family with our hands, not just our mouths. Stick around because what happened next will blow your mind. He pulled a folder from his briefcase and kept talking in that steady way leaders talk when they're not trying to impress you. They're just telling you what will be. We sponsor full college scholarships for children of our employees, which means Malik and Amara would have a runway, if they want it, not just tuition. Real support, tutoring, mentorship, the kind of net most kids don't even know exists. I felt the floor tilt, my knees made plans without me. The folder slipped from my fingers and landed on the mat with a soft thud, and I cried. I didn't hold it in for pride or for the performance of strength. I let it out, because sometimes release is the first honest breath you take all year. Why, I asked him, why would you do this for me? Amina knelt beside me like kindness does, straightforward, unembarrassed, and put a hand on my shoulder. Because when it mattered, you didn't ask us to prove we were safe. You chose to be safe for us, and because our dad taught us that success is empty if it doesn't lift someone else. Samira added, we weren't stranded by accident. In your neighborhood, our dad is considering developments in the area we were driving around. To feel the rhythm of the place, the car really did break down. The storm did knock out the lines. But the test was real too. Yeah, that happened. We moved to the table and talked logistics, because when mercy hits, it's still Tuesday, and somebody's got to figure out the details. Start dates, paperwork, housing options, a custody lawyer. He already called in my kid's state, and the whole time I kept waiting for the catch. This isn't charity, he repeated. You'll work hard, you'll be expected to lead, and in return, you'll have what you earn and what you deserve. A fair shot and proximity to your children. I said yes. Of course I said yes. I said it like a man who's been underwater and was finally handed air. I said it with tears in my eyes and laughter in my throat, and if my house could talk, it would have sighed and said, Finally, something good walked in the door and stayed. Now listen, because this matters. It didn't get easy. It got possible. There's a difference. Work is still work. Deadlines still do what deadlines do, and custody is still a path with paperwork and patience and conversations that ask more of you than you want to give. But 6 months later, I stood in a new office tracing lines on a design for a community center, a place for after-school programs, a co-op kitchen for families that need a hand, and a plan. A reading room where a single parent could sit for 30 minutes while someone else taught their kid chess. And I felt something uncurl in me I hadn't dared name. Belonging. My phone buzzed. A text from Amina. Dad has a new project, guess who's lead? Also, Sunday dinner, Mom's making jollof rice. I smiled so hard it hurt. Wouldn't miss it, I typed back. Family dinner is sacred. Later that week, my kids ran through my apartment, opening every cabinet and closet the way kids check if a place remembers them, and it did. Their toothbrushes waited by the sink, the purple one for Amara, the blue one for Malik. Their favorite cereal sat on the counter. The soccer ball leaned in the corner, like a promise of arguments and laughter. And we fell asleep on the couch halfway through a movie, both of them draped over me like blankets, heavy in the best possible way. Now let's talk about what this story pokes with a stick, because if we end here, it's just a feel-good piece, and that's not why I'm telling you this. What do we owe each other when the world gets loud? In a city where every doorbell could be a problem, in a world where every story on the news trains you to mistrust what is a safe amount of compassion. If it were you, what would you have done? Do you think his offer was fair? Did he reward character, or did he bend a system for someone who happened to cross his path? Is it dangerous to build opportunity on human moments that can't be scaled? Or is that exactly how change starts? One door, one yes, one risk at a time. Here's what I know. Kindness isn't soft, it's sturdy. It's a bridge you build plank by plank, often with hands that are shaking. And sometimes that bridge gets you to a place you didn't know you were allowed to stand. Opening my door didn't just shelter two strangers. It made room for Grace to come sit where loneliness had been stretching out like it paid rent. And him knocking on my door months later didn't just offer me a job, it offered me dignity, with it not pity dressed up as opportunity. So I'm asking you to jump in. Tell me where I got it right. Tell me where I'm wrong. Argue with me in the comments, but keep it human. Do you think I should have opened the door, or was that reckless in a world that punishes trust? Do you think Chief Okoro did the right thing hiring with his heart and his head, or do you think that's a slippery slope? What's your line between self-protection and apathy, between charity and investment, between minding your business and being your brother's keeper? If you've ever knocked on a door and been turned away, or opened a door and been surprised by what walked in, I want to hear it. If this story hit you in the ribs, share and hit subscribe so more people find it when their night is loud and their courage is quiet. Drop a comment. Not just a heart, tell me a time a stranger helped you, or you helped them. Tell me what you would have done on a stormy night, with a final notice on the table and two faces at your door. I'm Jamal, I'm still learning. I'm grateful you listened, and I'm listening back. Your move. What would you have done?